Hello, fight fans. Thanks for joining us at MMA Insider. Before we get rolling with today's news, show some love by hitting that like button and subscribing. Now let's uncover the latest happenings in MMA. Starting off, Dana White shoots down rumors of Brock Lesnar or Ronda Rousey fighting at UFC 300. Moving on, Deontay Wilder confirms plans to cross over to MMA amid talks with Francis Ngannou. Next, Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler to headline UFC 300. Lastly, Tom Aspinall reacts to Jon Jones keeping title while injured. UFC President Dana White has dismissed the idea of Brock Lesnar or Ronda Rousey returning in time for UFC 300. In April 2024, UFC is expected to host its landmark UFC 300 event. The show is set to be one of the biggest in the history of mixed martial arts, and as such, plenty of big stars are likely to appear on the card. After the announcements regarding UFC 297, UFC 298, and UFC 299, many now feel as if Conor McGregor will headline at UFC 300. However, some also believe old legends could return, such as Ronda Rousey and Brock Lesnar. In a recent interview with Sports Illustrated, Dana White gave his thoughts on the likes of Rousey and Lesnar coming back. This is what he stated. "I get why everybody asks. I love that everybody loves them like that, and with so much passion, but they're definitely not coming back for UFC 300. I always had an incredible working relationship with Brock Lesnar. It's funny to say this because he's such a grouchy dude, but I consider Brock Lesnar a friend. I absolutely love Ronda Rousey. She's one of the greatest athletes I've ever worked with. She's a pioneer, an inspirational figure for women, and an all-around badass for UFC. I'm focused on Madison Square Garden, but no, they're not coming back." Former heavyweight champion Deontay Wilder is serious about potentially facing Francis Ngannou in the cage. Wilder is currently awaiting his next opponent, defeating Robert Helenius last year. He was supposed to fight Anthony Joshua, but that fight fell apart. Following his fight with Fury, Francis Ngannou confirmed that he was again in talks with Deontay Wilder for an MMA fight. While he hasn't started training for it yet, the boxer is interested. During a recent interview with Blue Blood Sports TV, Deontay Wilder discussed his plans for a future move to the cage. This is what he stated. "People don't know me, and Francis was supposed to fight me first. Certain things came up. All I can say is, it's business. That fight took place, which is cool because Francis has made a name for himself. I'm thinking about doing both, UFC and boxing. I'll be a dangerous man in the UFC with those 4-ounce gloves. I broke the hitting machine with those 4-ounce gloves." The upcoming UFC 300 pay-per-view card, tentatively scheduled for April 2024, is expected to feature the absolute best the promotion has to offer, similar to the UFC 100 and UFC 200 events that preceded it. Not surprisingly, former two-division champion Conor McGregor, the biggest draw in the history of the sport, is loosely attached to the 5-round main event. According to DC, Conor and Chandler will headline UFC 300. Talking to the media, this is what he stated. UFC 100 had Brock Lesnar, with GSP and all those guys. UFC 200 had Brock. It was supposed to be me and Jon Jones also, but it ended up being me, Anderson Silva, Brock, all these guys, big names. UFC 300 has to have a name like that. We don't have Brock Lesnar anymore, so I think you have to have a Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler. I think Michael Chandler gets his shot now, in the main event. Michael Chandler will headline UFC 300. How crazy is that? Tom Aspinall didn't blink when the offer came to fight for an interim title on short notice after Jon Jones suffered an injury that prevented him from competing at UFC 295. Jones, who claimed the vacant heavyweight title in March with a first-round submission win over Cyril Gane, was forced to undergo surgery after tearing a pectoral muscle during his training camp. He's not expected back until sometime deep into 2024, but he'll still defend his title when he returns, because the UFC didn't force him to relinquish the belt in his absence. While plenty of past champions held onto titles through extended time off, light heavyweights Yuri Prohaska and Jamahal Hill both opted to give up the belt as they recovered from separate injuries. Jones didn't do the same, but Aspinall says he has no complaints about it. This is what he said. "I'm just fine with the interim. I'm not too bothered about it. It will all work itself out, I'm sure. Jon Jones is obviously one of the best to ever do it. I would love to share the octagon with him one day. I've got a lot of respect for him. Absolutely love his game. Massive fan of his. As far as if it's for the interim title or the vacant title, it doesn't really bother me too much." Thank you so much for tuning into today's video. Your dedication and support fuel our passion to bring you the latest and greatest in the MMA world. If you enjoyed today's news, please give us a thumbs up and share with fellow MMA fans. Remember to subscribe to stay in the loop with daily MMA updates. We've got a lot of exciting news, interviews, and analysis coming your way every single day. Your engagement helps us grow and serve the MMA community even better. Once again, thank you for being an integral part of our daily MMA journey.